The Billionaire's Secret. The champagne glass slipped from my fingers and shattered against the marble floor the moment I saw his face plastered across the ballroom's massive screen. Harrison Cole, youngest billionaire in tech history. The same face that had kissed me awake this morning. The same man I'd been fake dating for 3 months. The same person my best friend Maya had supposedly hired from a struggling actor's website for $200 a week. "Ella, breathe," Harrison whispered, suddenly beside me, his hand pressing against my lower back with an urgency I'd never felt before. His ocean blue eyes held something I couldn't read: fear. Desperation. I can explain everything, but not here. Not now. But it was already too late. Maya's scream pierced through the classical music and clinking glasses like a knife through silk. "You're dating my billionaire uncle." The entire room of 500 elite guests turned to stare at us. Camera flashes exploded like lightning. And in that moment, I realized everything I thought I knew about my life, my best friend, and the men I'd accidentally fallen in love with were built on a foundation of lies. 3 months earlier, my world had been so beautifully simple. "You need a boyfriend," Maya announced, sliding into the booth across from me at our favorite coffee shop, her designer bag making more of a statement than her words. Her dark curls bounced with excitement as she pulled out her phone. "And before you say no, hear me out." I laughed, tucking a strand of my long black hair behind my ear. "Maya, I appreciate the concern, but between my nursing shifts and taking care of Mom's medical bills, I barely have time to sleep, let alone date." "That's exactly my point." She leaned forward, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the table. "Your mom's high school reunion is in 3 months. She's been talking about it nonstop, and we both know why." My smile faded. She was right. Mom had been battling cancer for 2 years, and this reunion represented something precious to her, a chance to see old friends, to feel normal again, to show everyone that her daughter had turned out okay. But there was one problem: she'd been telling everyone I had a wonderful boyfriend. A lie I'd told her during her darkest days just to make her smile. "I found this website," Maya continued, showing me her phone. "Actors looking for work. We hire one, train him to be the perfect boyfriend, and your mom gets her wish. Simple." "That's insane," I said flatly. "That's genius," she corrected. "I already have someone in mind. He's perfect, charming, good-looking, and desperate enough for cash that he won't ask questions." Before I could protest further, she'd already made the call. Harrison Cole, though at the time he'd introduced himself as simply Harry, walked into my life wearing faded jeans and a leather jacket, looking nothing like a billionaire and everything like trouble. "So you're the girl who needs a fake boyfriend," he said, sliding into the chair across from me with an infuriating smirk. His jawline could cut glass, and his eyes held a mischievous glint that made my stomach flutter despite my better judgment. I have to say, I expected someone more desperate looking. "And I expected someone with better manners," I shot back, refusing to let him see how his presence affected me. His smirk widened into a genuine grin. "Touché. I think I'm going to enjoy this." If you're already hooked on this story, smash that like button because the secrets are just beginning to unravel. The arrangement was simple: $200 a week, and Harry would play the devoted boyfriend whenever needed. He'd learned my mother's name, Catherine, my father's absence, walked out when I was 7, my career, pediatric nurse, and my dreams, to someday open a children's health clinic in underserved communities. What the arrangement didn't account for was chemistry. "You're doing it wrong," I said during our third practice date, watching him attempt to hold my hand across the restaurant table. "That's how you'd hold a business partner's hand, not your girlfriend's." "Enlighten me then, Professor Romance." His eyes danced with amusement. I reached across and interlaced our fingers, my thumb brushing against his palm. "It's about intimacy. Connection. You're supposed to make her feel like she's the only person in the room." Something shifted in his expression. For just a moment, the playful mask slipped, revealing something deeper beneath. "Like this?" he asked softly, his thumb now tracing slow circles on my skin. My heart stuttered. "Why, yes. Exactly, like that." The waiter appeared, breaking the spell, and we both pulled away too quickly, laughing awkwardly. But something had changed between us, something neither of us was ready to acknowledge. The first month passed in a blur of staged coffee dates and manufactured romance that began feeling increasingly real. "Tell me something true," Harry said one evening as we walked through the park near my apartment. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, and somewhere a musician played soft guitar. "What do you mean?" "We've spent weeks crafting this perfect fake relationship," he explained, stopping to face me. "But I realize I don't know anything real about you. Not the things that matter." I considered deflecting with a joke, but something about the earnestness in his eyes made me pause. "I'm terrified," I admitted quietly. "Every day, I wake up scared that this will be the day Mom doesn't. That I'll get a call during my shift, and everything will just end." He didn't offer empty platitudes or uncomfortable sympathy. Instead, he simply took my hand, really took it, the way I'd taught him, and we walked in silence until the stars appeared. "My father died when I was 16, he said finally. "Heart attack. One minute he was teaching me to drive, the next he was gone. For years, I built walls around myself, convinced that if I didn't let anyone in, I couldn't lose anyone else. And now." He looked at me with an intensity that stole my breath. "Now I'm starting to think those walls might have kept out more than just pain." That night, when he dropped me off at my apartment, he kissed me for the first time. It was supposed to be practice, a rehearsal for when we'd inevitably need to convince my mother. But there was nothing rehearsed about the way his hands cradled my face, or how my heart threatened to beat out of my chest, or the way neither of us wanted to pull away. "Good night, Ella," he whispered against my lips. "Good night, Harry." As I closed my door and leaned against it, trying to catch my breath, I realized I was in serious trouble. I was falling for my fake boyfriend. Meeting my mother was the moment everything crystallized. "So you're the young man who's stolen my daughter's heart," Mom said from her hospital bed, her frail hand reaching for Harry's. Despite the cancer ravaging her body, her eyes sparkled with the same warmth I'd inherited. "With all due respect, Mrs. Mitchell," Harry replied, pulling up a chair and holding her hand gently, "I think she's the one who did the stealing." Mom laughed, actually laughed, a sound I hadn't heard in months. "Oh, I like him," she told me. "This one's a keeper." What happened next wasn't in our script. Harry spent 3 hours at her bedside, sharing stories, asking about her life, listening to her dreams for my future. He brought her flowers every subsequent visit. He remembered her favorite book and brought her a rare first edition. He held her hand when the pain became too much, and he held mine when I couldn't hold back my tears. "He's not acting anymore," my colleague Sarah observed one day after Harry had left, "has spent his lunch break feeding my mother her favorite ice cream. No actor is that good." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But every time I considered the possibility that Harry's feelings might be real, the reality of our arrangement slapped me back to earth. He was being paid to be here. This was his job. What I didn't know then was that Harry had stopped cashing my checks after the first week. The reunion was 3 weeks away when Maya showed up at my apartment unannounced, her face twisted with an emotion I couldn't identify. "We need to talk about Harry," she said, pushing past me into my living room. My blood ran cold. "What about him?" She paced, her heels clicking against my hardwood floors. "I've been doing some digging. Something about him didn't add up, the way he carries himself, his knowledge about wine and art, how comfortable he seemed at the charity event last week. Maya, he's an actor. That's literally his job." "He's not an actor, Ella." The words hung in the air like a guillotine waiting to fall. If you're dying to know what Maya discovered, comment secrets below and keep watching because this revelation changes everything. She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. It was Harry, my Harry, but different. He wore a tailored suit, standing at a podium, speaking to what appeared to be hundreds of business executives. The caption read, "Harrison Cole announces revolutionary AI healthcare initiative." "I don't understand," I whispered, though the pieces were already clicking into place with horrible clarity. "Harrison Cole," Maya said slowly, "is one of the richest men in the country. He's also my uncle, my father's estranged younger brother. They had a falling out years ago over the family business. I haven't seen him since I was 12. The room spun. "That's impossible. You hired him from?" "I thought I did." But he was never on that website. Somehow, he found out about our plan and inserted himself into it. She grabbed my shoulders. Ella, don't you see? He's been playing you. Whatever game this is, you're just a pawn. I wanted to defend him. Every cell in my body screamed that the Harry I knew, the men who held my mother's hand, who kissed me like I was precious, who looked at me like I mattered, couldn't be capable of such cruelty. But doubt is a poison, and Maya had just injected a lethal dose. I confronted him that night, my hands shaking as I stood in the doorway of what I now knew was his penthouse apartment rather than the modest studio he described. Were you ever going to tell me? Harrison, stood frozen, his face cycling through emotions too quickly to catalog. Ella, let me explain. Explain what? That you're a billionaire who's been slumming it with a poor nurse for entertainment. That everything we shared was just some rich boy's game. It was never a game. He stepped toward me, and I stepped back. The hurt in his eyes looked genuine, but I couldn't trust my judgment anymore. When Maya contacted that agency looking for an actor, my assistant intercepted it. She didn't recognize me, we'd only met once when she was a child. But I recognized her last name. And then I saw your photo. So I was a joke. A curiosity. You were a chance. He ran his hands through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. For 10 years, I've been Harrison Cole, tech mogul. Everyone wants something from me. Everyone has an angle. But when I saw you, this beautiful woman who wanted a fake boyfriend to make her dying mother happy, I saw someone real. Someone who couldn't care less about my money. So you lied your way into my life? I wanted to know what it felt like to be wanted for me, not my net worth. His voice cracked. I didn't expect to fall in love with you. The words hit me like a physical blow. Don't say that. It's the truth, Ella. I love you. I love your strength and your kindness and the way you make terrible puns when you're nervous. I love how you hold your mother's hand even when she's asleep. I love that you chose nursing not for money but because you genuinely want to help people. Tears streamed down my face. You had months to tell me the truth. I was scared. For the first time in my life, I had something real, and I was terrified of losing it. He took another step forward, and this time, I didn't retreat. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But please, give me a chance to earn it. Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was the hospital. Mom had collapsed. The next 72 hours were the longest of my life. Mom's condition had deteriorated suddenly, and the doctors weren't optimistic. I lived at her bedside, barely sleeping, barely eating, praying to anyone who would listen. Harrison never left. Despite my anger, despite my confusion, despite everything, he stayed. He brought me food I couldn't eat and coffee I desperately needed. He handled the hospital administration when insurance threatened to cut our coverage. He sat with Mom when I finally crashed from exhaustion, reading to her from her favorite book of poetry. Why are you still here? I asked him on the third night, my voice hoarse from crying. Because this is where I belong, he answered simply. Beside you. I haven't forgiven you. I know. I'm not sure I can. I know that too. He reached for my hand, and after a moment's hesitation, I let him take it. But I'll wait. However long it takes. Mom woke on the fourth morning with surprising clarity. The doctors called it a rally, common in end-stage patients. But to me, it was a miracle. You too, she said, her voice weak but firm, looking between me and Harrison. Come here. We approached her bed, and she took both our hands, joining them together. I've watched you these past few days, she continued. Real love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up. It's about choosing someone when it's hard, not just when it's easy. Mom. Let me finish. Her eyes glistened. I'm not going to be here much longer, sweetheart. We both know that. But I'm going to leave this world at peace because I know you have someone who will show up for you. Someone who will choose you, again and again. She turned to Harrison. You hurt my daughter. Whatever you did, I can see it in her eyes. But I also see how you've been fighting to make it right. Don't ever stop fighting. I won't, he promised, his voice thick. I swear it. Mom passed peacefully the following week, surrounded by love. And somehow, despite the grief that threatened to drown me, I wasn't alone. This brings us back to where we began, the coal industry's annual gala, 3 weeks after my mother's funeral. Harrison had invited me as his date, our first public appearance together. I still hadn't forgiven him, not completely. But I was trying. Then Maya's scream shattered everything. You're dating my billionaire uncle. The whispers spread like wildfire through the crowd. I saw phones raising, recording. I saw Maya's face contorting with rage and betrayal. I saw Harrison's jaw clenching as he prepared to face the storm. Maya, please, I started. You knew. She accused, pointing at me. You've been playing me this whole time. What was it, a scheme to get to his money? That's not. My father always said his brother would destroy everything he touched. Guess he was right. She turned to the crowd. Everyone here should know that this woman is a gold digger who... Enough. Harrison's voice cut through the room like a blade. The entire ballroom fell silent. I won't stand here and let you slander the woman I love because of a decades-old family feud that has nothing to do with her. Family feud. Maya laughed bitterly. You call abandoning my father to build your empire a feud? I was 16 when Richard threw me out of the house for using my trust fund to pay for our housekeeper's daughter's cancer treatment instead of investing in his real estate scheme. Harrison's voice carried to every corner of the room. He told me I was soft. Weak. That I'd never amount to anything without his guidance. So I left. I built my own empire. And I used it to help people, something Richard still can't understand. The whispers changed tenor. People were looking at Maya differently now. That's a lie, Maya said, but uncertainty flickered in her eyes. Ask your father. Ask him why we haven't spoken in 15 years. Ask him about the charity foundation I tried to set up in your grandmother's name that he blocked. Ask him why he sent you to that acting website in the first place, to hire someone to humiliate Ella at her mother's reunion because her mother once rejected his business proposal. I turned to Maya, horror dawning. What? Maya's face went pale. I didn't, he said it was just a prank. That it would be funny too. To publicly embarrass a dying woman at her final social event. Harrison stepped forward. That's the family legacy you're defending, Maya. Those are the values you're upholding. Everything was unraveling, secrets upon secrets, and I was standing at the center of a storm I never asked for. Maya fled the gala in tears, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered my mother, and sympathy evaporated like morning dew. I'm sorry, Harrison said quietly, turning to me as the crowd began to disperse. I should have told you about Maya's father's involvement. I was trying to protect you. You need to stop protecting me from the truth, I said firmly. If we're going to have any chance at all, you have to trust me with the hard things. He nodded slowly. You're right. No more secrets. I promise. I looked at this complicated, flawed, beautiful man who had turned my life upside down. I believe you. His eyes widened hopefully. Does that mean? It means I'm willing to try. Really try. I took his hand. But we're doing this my way. No more fake anything. This is real, or it's nothing. His smile lit up his entire face. Real it is. The next year was simultaneously the hardest and most beautiful of my life. Harrison and I built our relationship from the ground up, brick by honest brick. There were fights and misunderstandings. There were moments when his world of private jets and galas clashed spectacularly with my world of hospital shifts and modest apartments. There were times when the ghost of his deception whispered doubts in my ear. But there was also love, deep, profound, transformative love. He funded my children's clinic in my mother's name. I taught him how to live without the armor of wealth, to find joy in simple pleasures like walking barefoot on the beach or dancing in the kitchen while cooking dinner. I was empty before you, he told me one night, holding me under a canopy of stars on his yacht. I had everything and nothing. You gave me everything that matters. Flatterer, I teased, but my heart was full. Maya eventually reached out, 18 months after the gala. Her father had had a stroke, and faced with his mortality, he'd confessed everything, not just about me and my mother, but about years of manipulation and cruelty that Maya had been blind to. She apologized through tears, and while I couldn't offer her my friendship again, I offered her forgiveness. Because that's what my mother would have wanted. Harrison proposed on the anniversary of our first meeting, in the same coffee shop where Maya had hatched her scheme. "I've been thinking about our story," he said, kneeling in front of me while other customers gasped and took out their phones. "It started with a lie. A deception. And by every logical measure, it should have ended in disaster." "This doesn't sound like a proposal," I laughed nervously. "But here's what I've learned." He opened a velvet box, revealing a stunning but modest diamond, modest by his standards, anyway. "Love isn't about perfect beginnings. It's about imperfect people choosing each other anyway. It's about showing up when it's hard. It's about choosing someone again and again." My mother's words, spoken from her deathbed. Tears streamed down my face. "Ella Mitchell, you taught me that money can't buy the things that matter most. You taught me that strength comes from vulnerability. You taught me that being real is worth infinitely more than being perfect." He took a shaky breath. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," I whispered. Then louder, "Yes." The coffee shop erupted in applause as he slipped the ring on my finger and kissed me, really kissed me, the way he'd done that first night, except this time there was nothing fake about it. If this story touched your heart, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we have so many more emotional journeys waiting for you. Your likes and comments tell us you want more stories like this, so don't hold back, share your thoughts below. We married in a small ceremony, just close friends and family. I walked down the aisle carrying a bouquet that included flowers from my mother's garden, preserved and dried, so she could still be part of this day. Harrison cried when he saw me. The billionaire who'd built an empire, who'd faced down hostile takeovers and corporate rivals without flinching, wept at the sight of his bride. "You're beautiful," he whispered as I reached him. "You're not so bad yourself," I replied, and his laughter broke the reverent silence, filling the chapel with joy. In his vows, he promised to be honest, even when it was difficult. He promised to choose me, every day, for the rest of his life. He promised that whatever challenges we faced, he would face them beside me. In my vows, I promised to believe in him, even when doubts crept in. I promised to love not just the successful businessman, but the scared 16-year-old who'd been thrown out for being kind. I promised to help him build a life that was real and meaningful and true. "You may kiss the bride," the officiant announced. And he did. Oh, how he did. The children's clinic opened 2 years later, providing free healthcare to underprivileged communities. We named it Catherine's House, after my mother. On opening day, I stood at the entrance, watching families stream in, families who might otherwise have fallen through the cracks of a healthcare system that too often failed those who needed it most. Harrison wrapped his arms around me from behind. "She'd be proud of you." "She'd be proud of us," I corrected. This was a team effort. Speaking of team efforts. He placed his hand on my still flat stomach. "We'd found out 2 weeks ago, and I still couldn't quite believe it. Do you think we're ready?" I asked, voicing the fear that had haunted me since the positive test. "I think we'll figure it out together," he answered. "That's kind of our specialty." I leaned back into his embrace, watching a young mother carries her sick child into the clinic where they'd receive care regardless of their ability to pay. This was what my mother had wanted for me, not the money, not the status, but the impact. The ability to make a difference. "I love you," I said. "I love you too," Harrison replied. "More every day." And that, I realized, was the real story. Not the billionaire or the deception or the scandal. The real story was about 2 imperfect people who chose each other anyway, who turned a fake relationship into something authentic and beautiful, who proved that love isn't about where you start, it's about where you end up. Years later, when people ask how we met, Harrison still gives them the fake version, the one where we bumped into each other at a coffee shop and he spilled his drink all over my scrubs. It's simpler, easier to explain than the truth. But sometimes, late at night, when our children are asleep and it's just the 2 of us, we tell each other the real story. We laugh about the absurdity of it all. We marvel at how close we came to miss each other entirely. If Maya hadn't tried to sabotage you, Harrison muses, we might never have found each other. Everything happens for a reason, I reply. It's what my mother always said. He kisses me softly. Thank you for keeping me. Thank you for being worth keeping. And in that moment, surrounded by everything we've built together, I know that my mother was right. Real love isn't about perfect beginnings. It's about imperfect people choosing each other, again and again, until death do they part. And beyond. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. If this story made you feel something, that like button is waiting for you. And if you want more stories that will make you laugh, cry, and believe in love again, hit subscribe and join our family. We're just getting started.